What do you make of this guy, Stewie2k?
It's a very high risk, high reward pickup.
I don't know if Stewie2k is necessarily the best fit for this team.
There's a very good chance he will not become some fantastic player. He will not become the player that will help Cloud9 become a better team, and they will not be as good a team as they were in the summer when they made those 3 finals in a row. So I don't think it's a good pickup.
Being at a disadvantage, but look at that. Stewie's always at an advantage. He gets a triple. Takes down all of them, Stewie!
A little bit of hesitance going back in, but now Stewie, it's the trademark pop flash through. Let's see how many he can get. 1, 2, swings for the third, as Stewie dominates the play.
And Stewie's gotta go huge here. 1 for him, 2, 3, and 4! Stewie destroys the entire push.
Oh my god, what the shit? Stewie's on his own, but look at the time! Look at the time, there's 7 seconds to got the bomb! They're trying to build pyramids, but there's no more play! Stewie's won the round! We're going to overtime!
How fitting it is Stewie to save them! The only man that could!
Jake Stewie2k Yip was born on January 7th, 1998 and grew up in San Francisco, California. But young Stew's childhood wasn't easy. His parents spent most of their time overseas, and since his siblings were so much older than him, he was raised by his aunt until her health pushed her out of Stewie's life.
Growing up, I always lived with my aunt because my parents would work out of the country. But eventually my aunt got cancer, but she's okay now. My mom would come back monthly and my dad would come back during the big holidays.
By the time he was in high school, his friends were at different schools and his siblings were off to college. He was on his own and turned to video games to fill the time. Stewie discovered CSGO in the summer of 2014 when he was 16 years old, and he was instantly hooked.
The more I played CSGO, the more attached I got to the game. I thought it was like a really cool game, and I thought like it was a pretty fun game to learn. So when I watched like streamers, like I used to watch Mike play a lot, and I would see him do certain aim, like a certain way to aim, then I would try to mimic it. I would try to like steal people's playstyle and just like add it to my own.
But his obsession came at a price. Stewie was getting into 10-man pickup games on ESEA and playing into the night like his heroes on stream, which meant he had to sleep in, which meant he missed school, which meant he stayed home and played all day long and missed school the next day. CSGO was his drug of choice. He couldn't stop playing and it was tearing his life apart. At that point, his grades were slipping, and his school told him he either had to come back or transfer.
I would miss like weeks of school, and then eventually my school would contact my mom, and my mom would fly back and make sure I'm starting to go to school, but I'll still go to school. But my grades aren't good, I'm not doing homework, my test scores aren't that good. My parents never understood esports, and I always thought that being on the computer was a waste of time. So when they would get contacted from school about me being absent, they would confiscate my computer.
Without a computer, Stewie couldn't play CSGO and missed practice sessions with his amateur teams, but was still dedicated to the game. He didn't see a future in class, but he did see one when he was playing CSGO. Stewie knew about the world of professional CSGO and wanted to land with a stable team, especially if that team was Cloud9. He looked up to what was often considered the best CSGO team in North America, and he believed he had what it took to get on their roster.
Well, I always wanted a chance. Even when you guys picked up Ryan, I honestly thought that I should have gotten that chance, but no one knew who I was, but I always thought that I could bring more to the table than any other pickup.
C9's then manager, Stunna, kept in contact with Stewie though. He saw potential in him. He knew the Pug-Star could shine on the big stage. Stewie knew that getting noticed would require endless hours of grinding. He even snuck out of the house one day to play in the RGN Pro Series LAN in 2015, which was his first experience meeting fans.
Well, the first fan interaction I had was at RGN LAN. That's the LAN I snuck out to. So that was pretty cool when people asked me to sign their gear.
Stewie got his first taste of CSGO fame, and it only made him want more. He threw himself into the game, but All the while, his family's respect for him bottomed out.
At that point, my dad and my mom kind of like, you can tell like they're giving me the cold shoulder and they're like not really listening to what I say. They're letting me do what I want, but they're not happy about it, but they're like not paying full attention to me.
And that's when he got the offer.
One day I was practicing and then I got a call from Trace and then I picked up the phone and then he said that he's gonna give me a 3-month contract, but really it was like a full contract that one of you guys had. But I guess it was
light a fire under your butt.
Yeah, pretty much. And then that's where it all happened. I didn't even get a tryout and I just got a spot on the team.
But Stewie waited. At 17 years old, his parents would have to sign off on his burgeoning CS career, something he knew they'd never go for.
He wanted to wait until he was 18 to be able to do this on his own. And one of the things I had to consider is like I had these other players I was talking to, and I needed to basically have faith in him that he wouldn't sign with another team when he turned 18, which was a few weeks away. And I needed to basically commit to him, turn down the other players I was talking to, and wait for him to turn 18. And on his 18th birthday, like sometime after midnight, he signed his contract with Cloud9.
Stewie moved to the C9 house shortly after, without a word to his parents. That chapter of his life was closed, and he was ready for his shot at stardom. He was ready to finally succeed at something. But the pundits didn't think he was worth anything.
He's someone who's shown no tactical aptitude whatsoever, seems to have also shown no self-awareness as a player because he hasn't improved any of these key areas where he was having issues.
I don't know if Stewie2k is necessarily the best fit for this team, but I think Stewie2k is a really good player, and I don't feel like it's the right team for him. That's all it is.
God, this is the worst attack ever. It's a miracle that you're able to just run in like that and get a kill. Honestly, it's a miracle.
There's a very good chance he will not become some fantastic player. He will not become the player that will help Cloud9 become a better team, and they will not be as good a team as they were in the summer when they made those 3 finals in a row. So I don't think it's a good pickup.
The moment Cloud9 announced that they had signed Stewie2k to replace Sean Gares, one question was on every CSGO fan's lips. Why?
I'm not trying to be an ass here, but of all the young and uprising talent in NA, why the hell is Stewie2k?
One map deep.
That's fine. We'll get there.
Who else? Who do you think is better than Stewie?
Cloud9 losing to a
that is a young and upcoming player.
Can you tell me why you didn't play?
Seriously, I'm curious what you guys think. Because if you don't think Stewie2k was our best pickup, then you really just don't know the scene.
Stewie wasn't some NA superstar, he was a Pug player, known for making flashy individual plays. Armchair analysts took to Reddit and HLTV to laugh at C9's decision and puzzle over why they'd sign a complete no-name. But Stewie persevered.
At the start, I did get a lot of haters and a lot of people who discredited what I like to do. Over time, I think when I started showing potential, that's when I started to have a little more support from fans and a little more support from other players as well.
His first months with Cloud9 were rough. The team wasn't winning anything and bombed out of the MLG Columbus Major.
But it's got to go. They have to go right now. There's a kit only on Shroud. Smith staring it down. It's going to be RPK with Stewie. It's all on Shroud. 1 versus 4, and G2. They'll do one better than Envy, no less, but it's Cloud9 once more that get completely dismantled in a major.
After that, the team brought on Slemmy as an IGL to take some of the pressure off of Stewie. It didn't work out.
The bomb is about to go down and trying to make his way around the corner here. Stewie gonna go down. Shroud in a one-on-one. Nitro spraying furiously. He just has to hit really anything at this point here, and it's gonna be the kill. 16-10.
Unorthodox eco, but now they've got the upper hand. That's pulled back again, though, as Shroud and Stewie are able to collect it. It's gotta be Septus once more.
Of course.
Same position he was in last time. They are looking the Deagle. Oh, look at the XP. What a load! He's done it!
And this could very well be in here for Cloud9. Nothing gonna get a kill in return. Now up to 31. C is gonna be taking down Stewie. Still a 3-on-4 right now. They need that bomb plant. Skadoodle fighting close to the statue, but he's gonna leave Slemmy alone here to fight 1-on-3. no bomb plant, and they know he's down there somewhere going for the kill. Not going to happen. It's 16-14.
Slemmy was out by August, and while Automatic replaced him on the roster, it was up to Stewie to step up as IGL.
Everyone always thinks he's some flashy player who wants the highlights, and they like to criticize him when he doesn't have a big performance, but being his teammate, I realized Stu loves to win, and he actually, when he was strat caller, was pretty unselfish with a lot of the calls. He didn't always want to put himself in the best position, and that's when I started to gain a new respect for him as a player.
I feel like he didn't really realize until joining this team, until he was forced into like an IGL role in a sense, that he's really good at it. And I just don't think that would have happened on any other team that might have, you know, no other team would have pushed him to do that. So I feel like he's a really good IGL, and he's only going to keep getting better.
With Stewie in charge, C9 was popping off in North America and picking up impressive placements internationally. But the pressure was back on Stewie, and he finally proved his worth in Brazil at the ESL Pro League Season 4 Finals.
Now, the one thing about dropping through is they could push to B as a result, but they want to contest Stewie, who gets one. It's called 0, bomb down. Automatic in a 1 versus 1, and he's got no idea where Automatic is. He's rotated all the way to long, and Cold might get caught. He's looking down toward the door. He's in the open. It's Automatic to give Cloud9 Season 4. And that duo of Stewie and Automatic together on Cloud9 is what brought them back to form, and they show it in the last round to clutch it back.
The rise of Stewie this year has been the biggest Cloud9 story. And when I've talked to him about the work that he's put in, it's unbelievable how much he's deserved at the demo watching and everything.
Absolutely a meteoric rise from Stewie this year, turned to be from, you know, people that a lot of people question his addition to Cloud9, whether he was the right choice for them, but he turned out to be the in-game leader of the team, the playmaker, and the leader in general. So an amazing all-round performance from him.
C9 brought down Optic Gaming, Mouse Sports, and SK Gaming for Stewie's first big win. But if everything came together in Brazil, it didn't stick together for long.
Gets behind coverage without taking any damage, but this is such a hard position. Instantly scopes in on Apex though. One more to go on to Kenny, but Kenny can just hold this forever if he wants to. Peeks out back behind coverage again. Skadoodle takes the shot, and that's going to seal the deal. G2.
He's done. KNG. He's going to be on the flank fine. Shroud flicks back around and 2-1 taps. He's just going to close out the map like that. Absolutely dominating Cloud9 there.
But up above it's Stewie with everything to do. The ace to save Cloud9 here. Or it's a Gambit victory and the tag. Oh my god. And the bomb. He's going for the plant. Oh my god, he went for the plant.
Stewie's so close. 4 kills.
How much more can he do?
Yeah.
C9 looked better at ESL 1 Cologne, where they made it all the way to the grand finals, but were utterly dominated by SK.
This could be the final play of the tournament. Cloud9 try to do what they can as they edge towards the B site.
Problem is now where they're so in the open, even if they threw one, they would be able to push through it before it landed. Based on the angle it's thrown, so Phelps could go. He doesn't even need to wait to go. They walk into it, it's lined up, and it's done! 3-0 in the best of 5 grand finals, excuse me.
And then everything fell apart at the Krakow Major.
And Taz towards Connector makes it really hard for Skadoodle to maneuver, leaving nothing alone. It's nothing between Virtus Pro and playoffs.
Can he do it though? All the experience, as much experience as the veterans of VP, but no! It's going to be Virtus Pro!
Cloud9 went into full rebuild mode, dropping longtime members Shroud and Nothing for Tarek and Rush. Still, Stewie was hopeful.
I think the team has a lot of potential. I think the ceiling is way higher than with Jordan and Shroud. I'm not taking any credit away from them, but I think we have more potential with this team just because we got a lot more younger players now. We mesh together really well. Our personalities don't clash. We talk things out when we have problems.
Stewie's star power was there, but he still didn't have that huge win. He had come so close so many times, but just couldn't get it done when he needed to. Tarek was moved to IGL, and for a while, things didn't look too bad. Cloud9 wasn't winning, but they were getting far. Unfortunately, they were stymied at every turn by one team.
They've got a long road still and plenty of opposition. Rain going to be the first one up, and he's been so stellar. There's no stopping him. He doesn't miss a beat. Great headshot on Tarek. Now he gets aggressive, but Kerrigan takes that out for him, and actually it's all the kills coming in so quickly. FaZe Clan, they stroll their way into the grand finals here at ESL 1 New York.
He's to the window. I thought he was still running by. Good find from Rush, but Nico immediately responds. Bomb plant ensues, and Skadoodle with an op is going to try and watch over. He's actually gone to the M4. He wants to crawl. He wants to get up close. The op hasn't been amazing for him, and he's given his position away. What is that? How? What a way to close it from Nico. Phase 2-0. Cloud9 gone, Liquid gone.
Op is the first one up, and he's able to find that. Shot right to the face. He can move forward and go for the clutch.
Versus 2, but time is so incredibly low. Rain catches him off guard from short. And FaZe, they've done it. They're going to win this series out 2-0. And they will be heading through to the grand final tomorrow.
FaZe were a super team, built to win majors and dominate the competition. And leading up to the Boston major, they were certainly living up to their reputation. The team placed second at IEM Oakland, the ESL Pro League Season 6 finals, and first in the ECS Season 4 finals. They might not have been shoo-ins, but FaZe entered the Boston Major as tournament favorites, while Cloud9 were just another NA team hoping for a better-than-average placement.
You can kind of compare us to FaZe. We're not as good as them right now, but they have 5 superstars, and I feel like we have 5 superstars as well.
They don't look like they're going to go to the top ever, but they're like one of the few teams that I actually appreciate in as much as they do take care of the teams that are below them. All the teams below them in the rankings, you could usually put your money that Cloud9 will beat them, but then they'll lose to the ones above. It's rare you get consistent teams like that, actually.
C9 went undefeated in the Major's new Challenger stage, but things got rockier when they hit the new Legends stage.
Beat this push. There is the peak. There's the flashback. Very important. Out comes Antares. Gets nothing. Down to Paz. Picks Rush out the air. And now another one from Paz. What else can he? Oh my goodness, Paz. 4 from him. Absolutely unbelievable there from him. Oh my god, the ace to take the match.
This was a tough one for me because I sort of bigged up both teams as dark horses. I really didn't want them to meet, but Space Soldiers getting the better of that one. Cloud9 really got to pick themselves up if they want to get to Boston. These are the standings. You can see Cloud9 all the way down there in the doldrums right now. Crazy, crazy stuff.
Cloud9 needed to win 3 in a row to make it to the bracket. They brought down Virtus Pro.
2 versus 4, Snacks and Pasha doing all they can. No weapon for them to collect. Plays through the smoke, automatic, hearing them, executing Snacks. And there's the last player, Pasha, in the red. There he goes, and there they go. Virtus Pro have been eliminated from the major, and Cloud9 are fighting for survival.
Yesterday after the Space Soldiers game, you tweeted that your confidence was at an all-time low, but today that's not what we saw at all. You were playing with a lot of confidence. So what happened between yesterday and today? How did you reset?
Yeah, yesterday, I don't know why, but I just wasn't really focused on the game against Space Soldiers, so today I just kind of came out with the killer mentality and just kind of over-peak.
Astralis.
So they put themselves in position where they can get some information, they can quickly rotate to each bomb site, both of them with eyes on A.
High ground advantage. Oh, they spotted him. They definitely knew, and there's the kill. 16-6. Astralis sent packing from Cloud9, who continue into the tournament. They're going to play later today to see if they can finally make the playoffs.
And Vega Squadron.
Bomb will be planted. Comes in through the vent right now. Won't be there in time to deny the plant. Gets spotted by one.
Though.
He could do this, but he's got no kit, no nades, and he's got to find 2 kills, which are pretty polar opposites.
Yeah, entirely. 180. Again, though, the HPI jumps across. Rush nails it. 16 rounds for Cloud9, and 1 final legend status spot for Skadoodle. Cloud9 into the top 8. Not to mention they came back from 0 and 2.
We've had a couple teams where we've talked about if you're going to qualify the major, avoid elimination, whatever it might be, you have to have your stars kind of step up and just say flat out, I'm going to qualify. And Stewie did that here today.
With those 3 wins, C9 made it back to the bracket, and they were determined not to let it go to waste. C9 were set to take on G2 in the quarterfinals, but what followed would be better described as the Stewie show.
And Body doesn't want to push into the side. He knows it's all on this round.
Stewie, he hears it. Apex stepping a little bit too soon. Now Body in so much trouble, but Kenny's going to be up the high ground, getting the kill. He almost went down himself. There's Body picking it up, and now it's a 1 versus 1. Stewie versus Kenny. The smell of gunfire and freedom in the air, and Stewie picking up that kill. And Cloud9 are in the semi-finals. Oh my god, what a story. They shut down G2 almost flawlessly.
Next was SK Gaming, a tournament favorite and one of the best teams in the world. With everything on the line, Cloud9 and Stewie knew what they had to do.
Stewie is still here. There's still a chance. Foe's gonna walk right into it. The time, it's a double! He's done it! Stewie's created a chance!
There's a shot through the wall, and close range is automatic with the MP9, shutting down a couple, and there's Stewie lining up the kills. What can you even do about that now? The flashbang comes out, but they do rush down Fallen. That's going to be a lot of trouble as Fur gets down as well. Cloud9 answering back twice as hard, taking down Belt, automatic with the kill, and just like that, Cloud9 in a 1 versus 4. Taco can't do anything, the pandemonium is 16 rounds, and Cloud9 are in the grand finals of a major tournament.
On the other side of the bracket, another tournament favorite was tearing through their competition.
It's just Rops. Young Estonians, first time in the playoffs. He's certainly impressed, but it's not been enough. The mouse has bit the cheese, the trap is closed. 2-0 for FaZe, they'll move through to the semifinal.
And now it's a 2-on-2, but Nico's still alive, still trying to make up the mistake made earlier. 1 versus 1, and that's more like it from Nico.
Great read from Zeus to hold off as well, because he knew CT was covered, so the vent was nest likely, I should say. What a shot from Guardian, words out of my mouth, as he nails it through the box. He is tagged up. Smoke on the bomb immediately, he's got the kit. Doesn't elect to hold on to it yet. He's got time to play with! And 2 for 2, Smoke will do! It's FaZe to the final, and Guardian is an absolute god!
FaZe Clan had dropped a single map in the new Challenger stage, and made it all the way to the Grand Finals without dropping another. They looked unstoppable, and analysts pegged them to win it all.
This is the final boss. This is the FaZe roster. Just look at this talent. It is so stacked. Because if you look at meetings this year, when they played each other, you can see Cloud9 have certainly not had the best of it. FaZe Clan seem to be their kryptonite.
I think the problem here is the fact that, you know, FaZe not only won the last 3 encounters in a best of 3 2-0, it's in such a dominant fashion, as you guys can see, only double digits 2 times. Cloud9 is playing super well, but FaZe is the favorite here, and they're going to play like it.
But Stewie2k's Cloud9 had a different plan. The first map was close.
Across to short. That's information they know. Say, oh, Nico goes down straight away. That was maybe the only chance, but Guardian comes back in. Oh, Guardian, he gets 2. There's still more to go, though. Cloud9 must plant the bomb. The peaks come in, but Guardian will not stop. 1 more to go, and Guardian gets them all. He could be in for quite the money-making mission. He's going to just grind them all down with the MP9. Money in the bank for Skadoodle.
This is absolute carnage. The smoke's going away, and now Olofmeister with the sniper. There's Guardian, automatic on his own, running up the short position. I think Olofmeister's heard him, which means that they can all hold angles. The smoke fake, the flash fake won't work out. FaZe Clan take the first map of this series.
But Cloud9 were ready to fight back. They were close in the first round, and they came in swinging on FaZe's map.
Leaving Astralis. Tarek as well, he's got a lot to prove, and he's trying to do so. Relentless aggression, doesn't matter what the situation. Oh, that's dirty, but it is from Stewie2k. So they're getting picked off 1 by 1. And there's Stewie, there's his position coming into play.
Getting whittled down, picked apart, piece by piece, until there's nothing left. Cloud9, 10 rounds. FaZe still stuck. Waits patiently. Oh, that is phenomenal! Cloud9 make it work! Map 2 in the bag, and now they're back in it!
The underdogs took Overpass 16-10, and with the home crowd behind them, Cloud9 had shown that they had what it took to take maps off FaZe. Now, they just needed to win.
He's got to stay alive now. 10 seconds for this bomb to go down. He must stay alive. Stewie is going absolutely crazy on the B bomb site. There's no time to plant the bomb. It's too late. The money's not there. 1 more round. Nothing else is going on. He's got to go back. Stewie's on his own. But look at the time. Look at the time. There's 7 seconds to plant the bomb. They're trying to build pyramids, but there's no more play. Stewie's won the round. We're going to overtime.
How fitting it is Stewie to save them. The only man that could. The only man in position. Never wavering, never faulting. Forward Skadoodle repositioning after the first frag. It's both now from quad here for FaZe. Can Cloud9 close it? Skadoodle gets 1. Skadoodle can't get the 3rd. It's Nico with 12 health.
Is there time though? Is there time? I'm not sure if there is. It's going to be a close one. And he's done it!
Teammates can make the play just by staying there. He's a threat! Oh my goodness! Skadoodle does it with automatic!
my God! Do you know what that noise means, Dan? It means it's match point Cloud9. Do they have enough to take it over the line this time? It's Guardian versus 2.
Can he do it again? He's been in this position before to win phase around a very important, very crucial one. Can he deny Cloud9? We saw it from this position before. He cannot miss a single shot. Guardian waits patiently as Cloud9 sets the push up. Oh! Oh, it's happened! They made it work! Cloud9 are your E-League Major champions!
With that win, Cloud9 made history, becoming the first ever North American CSGO Major champions. But that trophy meant more than just a victory for NA. It was a victory for every player on that team. It was a victory for Stewie.
And how about this boy? Such a struggle to even get to play professional Counter-Strike in the first place. And now he is a major champion.
For Stewie, the kid whose family never supported him, the kid who defied his parents to go pro, the kid who dreamed of one day suiting up for Cloud9, this was everything. It was proof that signing him wasn't a mistake. It was proof that he was one of the best CSGO players in the world. But being on top means fighting to keep your spot. Just a few months after winning the major with Cloud9, Stewie left for SK Gaming. The promise of competing with one of the world's most accomplished teams was simply too enticing.
Fallen has always been pictured as a great IGL, one of the best, and Cold, one of the best players in the world, if not the best. They came to me last minute and said if I still wanted to join, and I kind of just decided last minute too. There's only 2 days left and they wanted me to decide quick, so I had to put all the pros and cons together and just kind of compare it together.
But SK has struggled since adding Stewie. The team is on shaky ground with unclear leadership and a new player that doesn't speak their language. But they have Stewie, his firepower, his potential, and his drive to turn his losses into fuel for victory. Stewie is still young, and his future is still open. With one major trophy under his belt, he has to be looking for another.
Thanks for watching. If you want more great content just like this, be sure to hit the subscribe button.